These testimonials are representative of my or our experiences, but the exact results and experience will be unique and individual to each person. The information provided herein is not medical advice and is not intended to substitute for the advice of your personal physician or other healthcare providers.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Beautiful Bag podcast. I am your host, Leanne Hayden, and this week I am here with our guest, Christy Tanner, who lives out in Oregon, and we're going to share her story and her struggles. She is newer to having an ostomy and because of colon cancer, but we're going to talk about we were just talking about the struggles of what it took for her to even get her colonoscopy approved. So this is important stuff for us to know. So Christy, thank you for being here with us this week.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share my story.
Yeah, it's an interesting story because we were just talking and you were just telling me, you've had your ostomy since March of 2022. Or was it May?
May.
See,
yes,
I got
May.
the date wrong this time. May of 2022, but you had some struggles going prior to this, just not even long, like just the year before that. And that was all during COVID. So why don't you share a bit of that story?
Okay. I shared that I turned 50 in 2020, right? In March of 2020, right when, the world kind of shut down a little bit. And I they weren't doing colonoscopies and I didn't think that I needed one. It was not something that ran in my family. So it wasn't even really on my radar. I knew I needed to do it, but I would get around to it. The next year in June, I went and saw the doctor because I was having some signs, but I didn't even think that they were colon cancer. You think they're probably, hemorrhoids or something. And I had painful when I would go to the bathroom. It would be very painful, very frequent. I had bleeding. And I kind of let it slide for a little bit. And finally, my husband urged me to go into the doctor and they said, well, you need a colonoscopy. And I said, okay, just thinking that they wouldn't find anything. I wouldn't know. And that was in June. And in July, I called and asked because I hadn't heard from anybody. And I called and asked if it was scheduled, how did the process work? And they said, oh, well, we have to get approval. And when I pointed out that I had turned 50 the year before and that it was covered, that I shouldn't have to have an approval, I did get a call back and they said, oh yeah, we can do it. And then I reminded them that I needed an endoscopy too, because the doctor wanted to look kind of from both ends. So they said, well, to do that, we have to schedule you with a PA to make sure that you're a candidate for that. So I waited again. It was about another month when it was end of September when I finally got my appointment. And I happened to get it it was on a Tuesday. And I know this because I had taken another job at a different company. And I was kind of nervous to get it done without moving the company. So I said, can I get it as soon as possible? So they were able to get me in on the Thursday. So I had the appointment, they approved, the PA said, yeah, you're a candidate. I had it on Thursday and I came out of the colonoscopy and it was still COVID. Everybody had masks on, kind of impersonal. And no one was with me. And I heard that I had a tumor and that they actually told me where it was. It was close to my rectum. And that they thought it was in my lymph nodes. I had some polyps. I also had some upper GI, an ulcer, and they said that they were going to send it out to pathology. And I was kind of just shocked because I had no clue that my symptoms went with colon cancer. And I guess that's probably something that we should talk about, that what are the signs?
Yeah. And let's do that, because colon cancer, it wasn't something that was in your family. It wasn't something that you would have to watch out for or get tested on or anything like that. This was something brand new. And so some of the symptoms that you had, what were they?
The most of it was bleeding. So, and it was actual blood. It wasn't, this is going to be descriptive, but it wasn't blood just on the toilet paper kind of from wiping, but it was actual blood in the toilet. My stool was a little darker than it should be. It was very painful at times and very frequent. I was like 3 to 4 times a day. And that had changed for me. So just that and cramping, and now I look back and I'm like, I was super exhausted. I didn't lose weight, but that is a very common symptom of it, like rapid weight loss, and just fatigue.
Right.
So,
and so you had some of those. So you were tired, you had the bleeding, you had the cramping, but here, let's talk about this. You said, you had all of this, you were approved, or you were waiting for approval from insurance. Then you had to turn around and wait for them. You had to call them back, right? And then you had to call them back again. Then you had to schedule another appointment. So that is advocacy for yourself. And I think that a lot of people don't know that, you go and call the doctor and you think that they're on it, they're going to call me back. Well, guys, no, you need to be calling them back and pushing to get these appointments. Because if you're bleeding from your rectum, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
That is not normal at all.
Absolutely.
So now you find out you have cancer, you're by yourself, it's COVID. You were just saying you came out to your car and thought you had it all together, but your husband different.
I thought I had it all together. I kind of just thought I just told him. And apparently I cried all the way home, which I don't remember. I remember thinking, who do I tell? Yeah. Who do I go to? I do have a daughter, and I knew that I had to tell her, but do I wait for pathology? Because they said it was going to be the next week before I found out. So I thought I was going to have to go a whole weekend, and I didn't want to stress anybody out, but I ended up telling my immediate family, and then that hopefully we would hear Friday, but I didn't know if it would be until next week. I did get the call Friday afternoon at about 4. And I remember just wanting to know the exact name. I couldn't tell you the exact name of my cancer now. I could tell you that it's colon cancer and where it was and how big it was. But I just kept asking that, well, what's the name? What's the name? But it was, they diagnosed it as stage 3B.
Okay.
Colon cancer.
So what is the difference in case someone who's listening doesn't know, what is stage 3B?
Stage 3B is that they believe that it's gone into your lymph nodes at that point, and B meaning the number of lymph nodes that they think that it could be in. Okay. So I knew 4 was the worst and I knew 1 was the best. That's about all I knew at the time. So I looked it up. I got off the phone, and obviously my husband was sitting there too, and just told him, and I said, they're going to call. I guess I'll have an appointment next week, but I need to also, they needed to do some more procedures to find out exact location and things like that. So I had an internal ultrasound the next Friday. It felt like everything was coming at me. Like, you have the appointment, you're told, and then you hear all of these different names of scans. So the first week was pretty much a blur of the appointments. And because I feel that they were very proactive, and I didn't have to wait a lot of time for my appointments, because sometimes you hear people waiting. I didn't wait for my appointments.
And
at
that's
that point.
important because cancer can grow really rapid. There's slow
Mhm.
growing and then there's rapid growing, and it can do it without, it can just grow so fast. So it was really good that they did all of these appointments within like a week, right? So yeah, all right. So now we've got the appointments. We know what kind of cancer it is. It's down by your rectum. Did you have to go through chemo and radiation?
I did.
Okay.
So there's a couple different ways that they go about the treatment. Starting out, one other thing that I should explain, the hospital that I was going to, they didn't have any regular oncologist.
Okay.
So oncologists came in for 3 months, left for 3 months. So I had two different oncologists. So I had one that started out my treatment, and the plan that she came up with was radiation and oral chemo. So I did radiation 5 days a week, and then oxyplatin 5 days a week. Oral, it was twice a day. Which is just the craziest thing to read on chemo. Don't let anybody touch this. I had to take it with gloves. My hands were in gloves because it's radiation. I mean, you're just putting poison into your body. And then after that, I was going to do the surgery. And then after that, I was supposed to do chemo when I was done. That was the plan. But I kept asking, because right away they said I had to have an ostomy. And I asked a lot of questions about it because that is not what I wanted. I mean, I love it now, but at the time it was the complete unknown. And I'm like, I don't want to live with that. Okay. And I had one doctor saying, well, maybe you don't have to have it. Maybe if we can shrink it. And then I had another doctor saying, nope, you're going to have it. And at that time, another oncologist came in, and I think it was the most I cried at a doctor's appointment, because he's like, no, that they should not be telling you that. This is not going to change your reality. You are getting an ostomy. And I was like, okay, well, if I have to do it that way, can I do the ostomy at the end and do the chemo in the middle? So I'm not dealing with a new ostomy and a chemo. And I realized I was very lucky that I got to have that choice. I know a lot of people just wake up with one. But at the time, that was my mindset, that I'm like, I don't want to go through chemo with a new ostomy.
Because that would be emotional. So you did the radiation and then the chemo, and then you ended with the ostomy, because it was, regardless, it was going to happen. Isn't it crazy how sometimes there's too many cooks in the kitchen, right? And you're hearing one thing from one surgeon and one thing from another doctor, and you're trying to piece it all together yourself. Yeah. So now all this happens, you have your radiation, your chemo, you have your surgery. It's now May of 2022. So just a year and a half ago. What was that like for you? What was that like for you, waking up with your ostomy now that you're done with your treatments?
I remember waking up and thinking my hips hurt worse than I've ever had my hips hurt, because you're in a frog position for 7.5 hours. I didn't really think about my ostomy at that time. I thought that I made it through. I didn't want to look at it. I still was kind of detached from the whole experience. But I can tell you, ostomy nurses are sent from somewhere. They're the best. An ostomy nurse came in and was showing us wanted to show me how to take care of the stoma, how to change, everything that you need to know, because you don't know until like at that point what it is and what it even looks like, really. And I didn't really want to look. And she looked at me and said, you need to look at it. I know it's not what you want, but please look at it. That thing that saved your life, and you're here today. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. It's not that bad. It's not ugly. It's it did. And I'm still here. And she said that when I went into nursing, I had a friend that got an ostomy, and I thought I was going to be a labor and delivery nurse, but she would not leave her house. So I said, I need to become an ostomy nurse because my friend needs to have a life. So at that point, with her saying that to me, I thought, I can have a life. I can figure this out. I can do this. And I have never once not embraced having an ostomy after she said that to me.
What a wonderful thing for her to say.
Mhm.
And for you to hear, like for you to be open enough to hear, you know? And again, looking down at your ostomy the first time, we're not in a pretty, I mean, when they take that bag off, but the first
Mhm.
bags we have, because they need to see the output and they need to see all the stuff, and it's the clear on the outside. And you're like, oh, I don't want to see all that.
And it's pretty swollen.
Yes, it's pretty swollen. It is pretty swollen. It's kind of like, what am I doing out here?
Mhm. Yeah.
And so, but now, I mean, we have, bag covers that aren't clear and all this stuff. So what are some of the things that you've realized since having your ostomy? Because now you're cancer free,
Mhm.
you're living your life. Congratulations. That's an
Well,
amazing thing.
I'm still waiting for a clear scan,
Okay.
but I'm being very positive about it.
Okay. Well, we're going to send all those positive vibes for
Scans
that.
can be hard. So
Yeah, scans can be hard. So how often do you have to go for a scan?
I'm every 3 months right now. So I should have another one in December. So I'm hoping that one, it seems like something new is found every time on them.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. When I had my cancer, I had to go for a scan every 6 months for 5 years. And it
Mhm.
was like, when it came time for the scan, like I was okay doing my life, and came time for the scan, and it was almost like I'd be having this mini heart attack, right? Like, what are they going to find? It was always that rough day or a couple of days until, you come out and they're like, it's clear.
Yeah.
And my doctors knew that about me. I'm like, they were so on it. And I was lucky that they would just be calling, like it would be that night or the next morning, like, everything's
Mhm.
clear, you're fine, go on. I'm like, okay, here we go. We got another 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just mine gets released so I can read it. So you don't really know what it's saying, but it always seems so out there. So I went to one appointment and I didn't think anything. And he's like, well, you did read on there that we can't rule out reoccurrence. I'm like, nope, didn't read that part. Didn't want to know. So I'm still waiting. I should go to every 6 months, but I've had them every 3 months since my surgery. And I think if I have a clear one, I can go to 6 months, but right now it's just every 3 months. But I have had a clear colonoscopy, so that is great.
That is a beautiful thing. That
Yeah.
is a beautiful thing. So now, what have you done with your life over the last year and a half?
I think that I have learned that no really means yes for me. Like, no to things that I don't really want to do, it's okay, because then I'm choosing me, which I would have never done before. I have learned that my body can still work out. I didn't exercise my whole life, but in the last probably 5 years before I started, I had started training for a half marathon before COVID. I went back to the gym. I belong to an excellent community of in my gym, and I worked out my whole through chemo and everything. The longest time I took off was about 2 months after my surgery. I did have some complications after my surgery. I had some infections, and I've had bladder issues since then. But I have figured out that I just need to move my body, and I'm so much happier, and my mind is so much better when I work out. So I work out 5 to 6 days a week, and I did my first box jump with an ostomy at 53. So that was pretty exciting.
That is,
something I never thought I'd be able to do.
yep. That is amazing. Congratulations on that. And it's, you said it a second ago. It was like, your mind needs it. So exercise to you has become your mental health, your healthy mental health, right? So what are you doing for exercises?
I go to a gym. It's called Burn Boot Camp. It is 6 days a week, and every day is a different protocol. There's some days there are leg days, arm days, cardio. Today was body weight conditioning. So just moving your body. And I go, and some days I am just not feeling it. And the trainers are very good about pushing me when I need to, but also knowing that I'm there for my mental health, and my body doesn't work the same as it did before, but it still works.
It does. And I think a lot of people, when they have their ostomies, a lot of people just are always concerned with hernias, and they can happen. And yes, it's a real concern because we do have a hole in our stomach, in our abdomen. But it's not stopping you. It doesn't stop me. I still go to the gym. I still lift weights. I still do all my stuff.
Yep.
And again, for me, I'm like you, it's my mental health. Like I need to go for my walks every day. I have to lift weights or do something, either yoga or lifting weights or mobility work or body work. I'm a lot like you in that way. So what are some things that you're looking forward to doing that you haven't done yet?
Continue to work out. I'm contemplating trying to do another half marathon, but I don't know about that with the bladder issues. That is kind of holding me back more than my ostomy ever would. I know that hernias are a reality, but I don't really let it bother me. I don't really think about it, because then I probably wouldn't get up and go to the gym.
Right.
I'm looking forward to just living and continuing to thrive with my ostomy.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And you're doing that. I mean, you're going through some struggles with your, with your scans and them finding things, but you're doing things. And I think it's amazing. You did your first box jump at 53 with an ostomy, so that's a first. So you can be like, check, that's a first, And you're going to have many, many, many more firsts with your ostomy. I know that there's so many things that we're out here doing and living our lives. And you're like, all right, didn't think I could do that. Guess I can. Because nothing changes. You can still live a life full.
Absolutely. I didn't know if I'd ever want to leave my house. So, I mean, I don't know if a lot of people feel that way, but it's like, I don't want my stomach to start gurgling or, making sounds. And I remember the first time I went out and it did that. I looked around and people looked at me. I'm like, my ostomy. And people like, oh, okay. No one cares.
No,
I've learned that no one cares.
No, they don't. They really, really don't. And there are about 750,000 to 1 million people in the US alone that have an ostomy, and nobody knows it.
Right.
Like nobody knows it. You wouldn't know it unless you told somebody, like you said, to me, sometimes I'm like, oh, I must be hungry.
Yeah.
When you're in a tight elevator and all of a sudden.
Yeah. Well, I have named my stoma, and I guess it's the most, the name that everybody uses, but mine is Stella because it just is the perfect name. Plus my great grandma's name was Stella. So I just I've always loved that name. So I love my stoma. So Stella. So sometimes I look around and go, oh, Stella's hungry today or something. And people look at me like, where's Stella? But
yeah, like, who's Stella?
Yeah.
But it disassociates it from you too. You know what I mean? Like we have to have a little fun with this. Like I was doing my makeup this morning and my husband walked by and he looked at me, and the other day he had said to me, you look good with makeup on.
Whoa.
Right. And I looked at him like, what was that? And he goes, you look good with makeup on. I'm like thinking, is that he's complimenting me somehow with that comment? And he goes, I'm telling you, you look nice. Like, I'm telling you, your makeup looks good. And I'm like, Oh, okay. So he was being a smartass this morning. He walked by me. I was doing my makeup. He goes, "You look good with makeup on." All of a sudden, Ivan is my stoma. Just make this like noise at him. I go, "See, you're getting yelled at, dude."
Yeah. They always have our back in some way.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
My husband still thinks it's pretty funny when mine starts to go off, and it's loud at times, but
Mhm.
at least you can't smell it.
No, exactly. Right. And I think that I thought you were going to be able to smell it. It was going to stink, all this stuff. And you don't, we're more protected than they are.
I know.
When
Yeah.
when their gas goes, my son, when I first got mine, my son walked in my bedroom. I was sitting there and he walks in the bedroom and he lifts up his leg and he farted. I go,
Oh.
"What did you do that for?" He goes, "I didn't want you to be alone."
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Boys
Sometimes
will be boys.
blame it on the dog.
Yep. Yep. Blame it on my husband. I'll blame it like when we're out. "John, did you have to do that?"
I think at this point, everybody that knows me knows it's me, and they just kind of giggle.
Yeah. Yep. 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 Oh, that's amazing. This has been a great call. And I'm so glad like you brought the awareness of, you have to advocate for yourself don't wait. Things are going on. You call, you push, you do what you need to do to get your appointments, to get in there. You probably will get 3, 4, 5 different opinions from different doctors. But they're really just trying to save our lives at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm really thankful for the second one that just like really pushed me to realize that stoma is not the worst, it's not the worst thing. This is just your life. First I was like, wow, he's not very nice. And I'm like, well, he's not here to be nice. He's here to save my life.
Most surgeons aren't that nice. Most surgeons don't have that bedside manner.
Well, this was an oncologist. I think my surgeon was probably one of the nicest people I've ever met, he was great.
That's awesome. That is awesome. All right. Well, Christy, if there was one last thing that you would want the listeners to know, what would that be?
Important to advocate for yourself, because I'm still doing that. But living with a stoma we need to take all the stigma away. There's nothing wrong with it. My body still does the same thing. Yes, I can't eat certain foods, but that's okay. I'm alive. And I think just talking about colon cancer, I talk about it all the time. And when someone tells me I got a colonoscopy because of you, it makes me feel so good inside. I have stickers that I give my friends that I've made, says check your colon. And it's just me now. And I don't want to be known as the colon cancer person, but if that makes one person get a colonoscopy or two, or ask me about it, what my symptoms were, that's the best thing that I can do.
That's amazing. And bless you for doing that, right? Spreading the word, spreading the awareness. Well, Christy, thank you so, so much for being here and sharing your story with us this week.
Well, thank you for doing this.
You're welcome. You're welcome.